Hi there, Lee from the Be Happy channel. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned. The video will start in just a minute. Just a quick introduction. Today, we're very lucky to have Stephanie Barger return to the Be Happy channel. As you might know from listening to her previously, she's a very skilled dog trainer, and she has great tips for you today on what to do if you're bringing home a new dog, whether it's a puppy or a full-grown dog. Lots of things to learn. So let's get started. Welcome back, Stephanie. It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you too, Lee. I'm glad to be back.
Thank you. Just a little FYI to people that are watching, Stephanie and I might be doing this a little more often. Your video has had a wonderful response, and so maybe once a month or so we'll get together. And please, everyone, if you have dog behavior questions, send them to me. Put them in the notes, anything, because we can base an entire interview session around your questions. We really want to know what you have in mind. But today we're talking
Absolutely.
about new dogs.
Yes, yes.
And that's
Puppies as well as rescues that are older. So we're gonna talk about them both. Just
sounds
bringing a new dog into your house.
very good. Very good. Do you have, before we begin with the questions, do you have any success stories that you might be able to share about someone with a new dog and how things worked out?
Yes. I actually have a very recent one that a client that I had been working with for a while sent me an update. So this little guy was very reactive, very anxious, and lived in a home with another dog as well as two adults. And they came to me because this little guy was biting the wife. And whenever the wife would move, there was a chance that a bite might happen. It started off as a low level bite, but progressed over time to where there were punctures, and it was getting to the point where she was very afraid of the dog. And this was a little Chihuahua. So we're not talking about a huge dog. I think it's important that people realize that smaller dogs can, cause fear in their humans with some of their behaviors, as well as big dogs. They tend not to be able to do as much damage, but they can still do damage. So we worked together a couple of times. They worked a couple of packages with me with some breaks in between, and she couldn't touch the dog. She couldn't really move suddenly around the dog without him reacting. Um, couldn't put a harness on him, couldn't take him for a walk, was very attached to the husband. And the husband travels. And so that was very difficult because she was home alone with the dog on occasions and needed to be able to care for him. And I just got an update with them saying that she's been able to put the leash on him. And when her husband comes home, um, this dog is just as engaged with her, even when he is around. So there's just been a complete shift in their relationship. And so, as far as I know, there have been no incidences since we stopped working together since our last package. So it was wonderful to hear.
Those stories are so heartwarming and so important because how many people bring a new dog home, whether it's a puppy or an adopted full-grown dog, whatever, and then things don't always go as well as planned at first, and that dog ends up being given away. Yet again, for a dog to be able to have a full life with a family is so important.
It is very important. I also want to make sure that people, there's no shaming in rehoming a dog if it's not working. There sometimes we get the wrong breed for our lifestyle, or there are just issues that you can't deal with in the home. It's very different. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's very different if you have small children in the house and you have a dog that's, it's a safety issue. And so there is no shame in rehoming a dog, but it does happen a lot and frequently because new dog owners aren't they're expecting a certain lifestyle and that dog is not ready to live up to that lifestyle, and unfortunately frequently they're not given enough time to kind of get up to speed.
What are the first steps a new dog parent should take to make their home welcoming for a new dog?
Well, I think the first thing that you should do is make sure you have all the things before you bring the dog home. I do note that a number of people will pick up the dog and then go to the pet store and do all the shopping. I recommend that you do all that shopping ahead of time. You have your bowls, you have your beds. You generally have an idea of the size of dog that you're going to get. So you can, adjust those as you need to. Very rarely is somebody planning on getting a big dog and they come home with a little one, or vice versa. And so making sure that they have everything that they need so that you're not dragging them into a pet store, which is you've just turned their world upside down. You're a brand new person, and now you're taking them into this strange, very active place where there's other animals, and that it can be very overwhelming. And so gathering all of that stuff ahead of time and making sure that you have them is ideal. And then also setting up a vet visit is very important, making sure that they get a health check, um, and that everything is in good order and you can get any vaccinations that are necessary, heartworm medication, just to make sure that the health of the dog is good. Um, and then finally set up a safe place in the house for them that is not in the middle of all of the house activity. Some place where they can go, where they've got a nice cozy bed, um, and get away from a little bit of the chaos. Because again, whether you're taking a puppy from its siblings, its litter mates, and its mom, or you're taking a puppy that's been or a dog that has been in the shelter, their life has been turned upside down at least once, right? Because you're removing them from any kind of normalcy that they understand and putting them someplace else. And with shelter dogs, that can be more than once
Mhm.
because they got to the shelter in the first place. So that was upheaval number one. And now, even though your place is probably much better than and comfortable than a shelter, it's still changing their life completely. And so making sure that they have a nice place to decompress where they're not, in the middle of all of our crazy daily activities. And then I guess another thing is, particularly with puppies, we want everyone to come over and meet the new dog. Um,
Socialization.
Yes, yes, but socialization has to be done mindfully. You don't want everybody coming home or coming over and petting the dog and interacting with the dog. They don't even know you yet, let alone your friends. And so really giving them some downtime before you start introducing them to other people, making sure that they're comfortable with you so that they can look to you for some guidance on whether or not this person is safe. And then being very careful to advocate for them and make sure that people who are being introduced to them aren't overwhelming them.
Hmm, very good advice. So, in addition to all of that, are there any other things a person can do to establish a really strong bond during those first days, weeks?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that decompression time is very key, right? That is going to immediately start to help the dog feel like you are trustworthy, they are safe around you. And so not pushing them into too much craziness for at least the first few days is definitely something that you want to make sure that you do. Um, and then you can start introducing some kind of a schedule or routine, right? I would do that pretty much in the beginning, except that when I'm talking about a routine and a schedule, I'm talking about feeding, pottying, not necessarily going on a long walk, um, but playing some games with them, maybe some very initial training, investigating what they do know if they're an older dog, and as opposed to what they don't know, because frequently we don't know their histories. And they may know certain cues. They may know how to sit on cue, right? They may know how to wait. And so testing some of that out and kind of figuring out what in the repertoire of things you would like your dog to know on cue, do they already know? And what don't they? And so you can do things like setting up a feeding schedule. And these schedules are going to be different depending on your household, right? Um, I have some clients who feed based on the clock. Dogs get fed at 7 and 7 and they're good. Potty time is at X time, X time, and X time. But I have other clients who are more on a less clock oriented routine where they may get up at various times in the day, in the morning, or go to bed at different times in the morning. But the routine of I get up, we go outside, you have your breakfast, that order is
Right.
what the routine is. So it's establishing some kind of a routine with making sure that those basic needs are being met. And one basic need that I really want people to really pay attention to, that a lot of people do not realize, is sleep. So dogs actually, it depends on the study that you read. I'm of a mind that it depends on the age, not only the age and size of the dog, but also potentially the breed. Somewhere between 8 is the absolute minimum, and that's for an adult dog. And I usually find that most dogs do better with more hours. So if you're talking about an adult dog, ages 3 to senior, you're talking about somewhere between 12 to 16 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. They're not going to do that all at once, okay? But if you have a 6-hour night, then you got to find another 6 hours that you're making sure that that dog is napping throughout the day. Otherwise, they are sleep deprived. And lack of sleep, along with any kind of health issue, are two of the biggest contributors to behavior issues.
Oh, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
never thought of
yeah,
that, lack of sleep. Wow.
yes, and so they need a little bit more sleep than we do, even more than what we ideally should have, right? Because they say 8 hours, right? I'm not an 8 hour person. I'm more of a nine, but a lot of people are six. They're sleeping 6 hours a day. Um, so if your dog is having behavior problems, I would definitely be making sure that they have some kind of sleep routine, right? If they haven't managed to do it themselves and regulate themselves, then, think of it as a toddler. It's nap time. You're going to go into your quiet space. You're going to relax. I'm going to give you something to lick on or chew on to kind of relax you. You're going to have a little nap and we'll come and get you in an hour or so.
Very good.
Um, younger dogs and older dogs are going to need more sleep.
Sure, puppies in particular. Yes.
Puppies are like
Hmm.
20 hours,
Okay, good to know. So, what about introducing a new dog to children or to other pets in the household? Is there a best way to do that?
Well, ideally, if you have other dogs in the home, any place that you get a dog is going to like to see a meet and greet just to make sure that there isn't some animosity right out the gate. Um, but people have cats and they have kids. A lot of times kids are included in meet and greets, but not always. It's going to depend on the age of your child. Um, you do want to do as much as you can to educate your children on, good dog manners, and being able to recognize when a dog isn't wanting to engage. And those can be very subtle, like just turning their head or licking their lips. Their blinking changes. So it can be very subtle. So you can't expect smaller children to really be able to make those observations. They just want to pet the puppy. Okay. Most dogs, at the very most, will tolerate being hugged, but most of them don't like it. So do not encourage your children to hug the puppy. That is, and when we're talking about smaller kids, their face frequently is right where the dog's teeth are. And so most dog bites with children, they're more damaging. Okay. And it happens, it's from a dog, either the family dog or a dog that they know, because children just get so comfortable and they're not paying attention to the fact that, maybe they're just not, the dog just doesn't want to do that right now. And they keep pushing it and they don't see all of the warning signs, and it ends up in a bite. And because of, the size of those little people, it can do a lot of damage. So making sure that you take some time with your children to make them aware of how to engage with a dog. There are some great resources. Kids and Dogs is a great resource. I'm sorry, I do
Is
not
that a
have the
book?
website.
Oh, it's a website?
It's an actual website. They have some great resources. I will get that to you so you can put it in the notes. Okay. But again, slowly, right? And if there are kids in the home, you're going to have to really, really make sure that you are on top of the enthusiasm, because they're going to be really happy to have their new dog. And that could be very overwhelming. So teaching them good manners, uh, allowing the dog to come to them and not going to the dog. And then if they are of an age where their self-control is not so great, and that could be there's no age range really, because everybody matures differently. So if you are in a home with children that are younger or their self-control isn't so great, you're going to always want to make sure that that time is monitored actively. Not you're in the same room checking your email, but you are watching the situation closely.
Sure, all it takes is one look away and anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
makes sense. What about other dogs?
So for other dogs, it can be help. There's a number of things that you can do, especially if you haven't had a meet and greet already. Taking the current dog in the home, and meeting outside, and maybe going for a walk or meeting at a park, and kind of letting them get to know each other outside of the current dog's territory, so to speak. Okay, can loosen things up a little bit and then have everybody go inside at once. You can do things like separate the dogs with baby gates or in other rooms, particularly if you're not able to monitor them. You do want to make sure that you're paying attention for quite some time when the dogs are together. Don't just throw them in the backyard and let them have at it, because you want to make sure that they're comfortable with each other. I've even had situations where there's been aggression inside the home where it's okay, we're going to work on them relaxing together, which means that dogs are on leash, tethered in an X pen, one on each side, behind a baby gate, one on each side. And you're just reinforcing the fact that they're just, chilling out in close proximity to each other.
How important is a routine for a dog's adjustment to a new home? Well, you mentioned routine earlier, but is that really something that they can absorb and understand from a very early time?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. I think so as I've mentioned before, I work with fearful and anxious dogs. Anxiety loves information. And so if they know that when certain things happen, certain other things are going to happen, that can be very reassuring to them. So, for example, if you're saying, okay, let's go outside, and then they know, hey, we're going to go out this door, we're going to go out and be in the yard for a little bit, I'm going to have an opportunity to go to the bathroom. Or when you pick up their bowls and start preparing their food, you take out the bowls and prepare their food, they know, ooh, dinner is coming. So that kind of routine is very helpful. That includes, and this is a thing that some people make the mistake of not doing, is leaving them alone, okay, for short periods of time, right? If there are other animals in the home, you're going to want to take those security, safety precautions, make sure that everybody's not roaming around together until you're sure that, there aren't going to be any incidences, but making sure that that dog is comfortable with you leaving and coming back. Because we don't want anything to develop into separation anxiety, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so
So
important.
it can be as simple as, many areas of the world now have centralized mailboxes, right? So it can be as simple as leaving them while you go and get the mail, to start off with, or leaving them when you take out the trash cans, or running to pick up a prescription at the store that's only going to take 15 minutes or so. And it's helpful if you have a camera on them while you do that. So if you have some internal cameras, that you can, look on your phone, see what kind of behavior that they're doing, that'll give you a gauge as to how comfortable they are being left alone. And you can start addressing that sooner before it turns into full-blown separation anxiety, as opposed to later.
I'm glad you mentioned anxiety. I know it's something you work with extensively. What ways can a dog parent prepare to manage a dog's anxiety or nervousness in unfamiliar situations?
So it kind of depends on the situation. Some good tips are, first of all, distance. More distance you can give a dog from the scary thing, the better. Okay. If you see that your dog is starting to become uncomfortable, remove them from the situation, make a note of what made them uncomfortable, and start a training plan to start conditioning them and desensitizing them to that, so that they, because again, if you're bringing a dog home from a rescue, you may not know very much of their history. And so they may have been in a situation where they got hit by a car, and so now cars scare them, right? So then don't walk them on a busy street. That's not going to help you until you start getting them more comfortable around cars in general. Um, or, some people experience, problems with bikes or other dogs. Maybe they had some altercations with other dogs before they came to you. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and distance them from that situation, get them out of it if you possibly can, and then make a note. Okay, we need to work on this, and then gradually build them up to the point where they are able to, look at that dog walking on the other side of the street and keep on going and not have to worry.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What are some techniques? Your favorite techniques? What are some of
So
your techniques to, redirect a dog's unwanted behavior? Now, I know that goes very deep and you spend hours working with people on this stuff.
yes.
Give us a little tidbit of it.
Okay, so I'll give you kind of my top three. The first one is distance. Okay. Almost all of my clients, I teach some kind of focus cue. That's where we're asking the dog to look at them, uh, look at their person when they see something uncomfortable. Okay. And it's the timing of this is important. They have to see the uncomfortable thing, then look at you, rather than you shoving food in front of their face to redirect them before they even see the thing that makes them uncomfortable. Because you can actually teach them that food means there's something scary in the environment, as opposed to there's something scary in the environment. What are we going to do about that? Because now they're focusing on you, and you can go ahead and reward them for that focus and keep on moving. And so it really kind of, that timing is very, very important. Um, and then in addition to a focus cue, I also like to teach a nose target. That's where we teach the dog to bump your hand, your palm. This is very helpful because frequently with focus, people will stop motion. And with anxious and fearful dogs, that can make things harder. Wait, now you want me to stop moving, and that thing is coming closer. And so a nose target is actually a movement, right? You can move them to redirect onto your hand, to do that nose bump, that nose target, and they're able to move in the process.
So give me an
So,
example of when you would use that.
wow, you're on a walk, the nose target,
Yeah.
or okay, you're on a walk and you see someone coming the opposite direction on the same side of the street, and you want to move to the other side of the street. The dog kind of perks up, and you go, I use tap. Sorry, I was just checking to make sure that he wasn't going to try and tap. Um, so you say your cue, and you position your hand so that the dog is turning away from what they're focused on. And possibly you can use that to change direction, like, hey, we want to cross the street. Target on the hand. We're going to go this way. Okay, so it helps the dog get the dog moving in the direction that you want them to move, without putting pressure on that leash, without tugging them, without pulling them. And I cannot tell you, I think there's been one or two dogs that were not fond of the nose target. They love it. It's a game. I use it as a game for him. When I don't really have a lot of time or a lot of energy, I will just ask him to target on my hands and move my hands around. And he loves it, even at his age. So it can be really, really useful, and it really helps to shift. If they love doing this, it helps shift their mindset from worry to, oh, when I see something that makes me concerned, we play this fun game, and it starts to rewire how they feel about that.
That's brilliant. It's kind of like reframing, they
Mm-hmm.
just start, and it distracts them from it, and they're having a good time. See, things
Yes.
like that I would never think of on my own, which is why coming to someone like you is so important, because there are these little simple and fun things that you can do that just make life so much easier with your dog. I never would have thought of that. Um,
Yes.
how can a person make sure that they meet their dog's mental and physical situation needs? I mean, you have a new dog coming into the house, you don't even know, right?
Right. Right. So experimentation, for one. Every dog is different. A lot of dogs love scent games, or a lot of dogs love digging, and that's something where, rather than fight it, I like to work with it. So you can set up a little area in your yard if you're concerned that your dog is, digging up your irrigation system or all of your plants. Right, set up an area in your yard that is a legal digging place. And every time they dig outside of that, you're going to redirect them into that digging place. It does not have to be fancy. It could be those kiddie pools that you get, like at Walmart. Fill it up with dirt, bury some things in there for them to find, and that can be their digging spot. I've had some other clients that have taken railroad ties and just kind of made it. They have larger yards, obviously, but they make an area where the dog is allowed to dig. I had a digger. He is not a digger, but I had a digger before him, and we would, when it was time to plant or to pull stuff up in the yard, I put digging on cue for her, and she would help me do the gardening. So you can,
That's cool. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So she would dig a hole to China if she were allowed to. So
But it's nice that you teach people to go along with that, rather, that which you
right.
resist, they say. Is it
Yes.
true too that dogs find chew bones to be very relaxing? Is that
Yes. Chewing and licking,
okay?
actually, both of those things. So those lick mats, some people call them Licky Mats. Um, those are great. As a matter of fact, if you hold on just a second, I'm gonna grab one so
Oh, cool.
people can see. So this is an example of a Licky Mat. You can see that it's got this textured thing, okay? And all you do is you take something pasty and you just spread it. You can use canned dog food, you can use pumpkin. Go on to Google and the best way to find some great recipes are stuffed Kong recipes. Just Google, put that in your Google search, and a whole bunch of stuff will come up. A lot of people's default is cheese or peanut butter, like, you know, the spray cheese or the peanut butter.
Ooh, a lot of
Just,
calories.
yes, it, like us, right? A lot of that stuff isn't great for you. So, or for them. So what you want to do is mix it up with some other things. If your dog tolerates dairy, you can use Greek yogurt, pumpkin puree, you know, some tuna in there. Probably the most disgusting concoction that you can think of, they will love. Just make sure it's nice and pasty. And you can put a little peanut butter in there or a little bit of cheese in there, but it shouldn't be the thing, the base.
I love your idea
So,
of using pumpkin. You know, my dogs just love pumpkin, and they
yes.
love it raw and they love it cooked. Is it safe to give it to them raw ever?
You
I mean,
know,
not with the Licky Mat, obviously, but
yeah, not with the Licky Mat. A little bit of pumpkin that's not cooked shouldn't be a problem. But you want to make sure that it's just the inside, and not, you're not giving them the rind.
very good.
And then also when you're talking about pumpkin, do not get pumpkin pie mix. You're looking at just pureed pumpkin in the, you know, if you're getting a can. So it's not your pumpkin pie mix with all the spices and everything in it. You want to just get the pumpkin.
Yeah, so look at the label, and if it says 100% pumpkin, there's nothing else listed on the label. That's what it is you need to get.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Are there a lot of misconceptions that people have about dog behavior? Do you think that there's a few that people need to know in advance of bringing a dog home?
Well, I think that one of the things to be aware of is that when you go and get a dog, you kind of have expectations about what life is going to be like with that dog. You may be looking for an adventure dog, somebody to go camping and hiking with. You may want, you know, to have a couch potato. And so I think one of the things that's important is to really be paying attention to the type of dog that you get based on what your expectations are, and then also building them up to that. I think that too frequently I see, oh, we just adopted a dog and now we're doing all the things and the dog is, you know, struggling. They are not prepared to be sitting in the pub patio or going on a hike on a trail with you. And so you can't just jump into those activities when you get a new dog. You have to build them up to them and build it up slowly. And so there's this prep time. And I think that everybody just wants to do all the things all immediately. And very few dogs are able to do that.
Very good. So, at what point should someone think about consulting a behavior specialist like yourself? What signs should they look for in a dog to know that maybe they just need a little bit of help?
So I would say that the moment that your dog is exhibiting a behavior that you are uncomfortable with, okay, or that if it escalates is going to be a problem, you should be reaching out. Here's the thing: the more a dog practices a behavior, the more likely they are to do it in the future. On top of that, if the little behaviors that they're doing are not working, right? Let's say the dog snaps at you, but completely doesn't touch you, doesn't, nothing, just, you know, a air snap, okay? Um, and then you continue doing what you were doing that caused that air snap, they're going to escalate their response, okay? And so being able to recognize, ooh, this is potentially a problem. Don't wait until they've actually bitten someone. Frequently people wait until there's an incident that now they can't just ignore or work through on their own. And by that time, frequently it's an established habit, and that's the dog's go-to, because you've taught them that that's what works, that is what gets the thing to stop, as opposed to any of the more subtle warning systems that are, you know, a slight turn of the head or licking their lips or backing up, right? Because that didn't work because you kept coming. So now they have to do something else. So my thought is, if your dog is displaying anything that you are uncomfortable with, reach out to someone then. They can help you determine whether or not you need to go into a behavior modification program, whether or not this is more of a developmental thing and giving you tips to help the dog not make that a behavior. You know, because puppies, they mouth a lot. They use their teeth a lot. They explore the world a lot. And
if someone's wondering if their dog really needs that now, you have free consultations you offer, don't you? Where you
yes, I
can
do.
let them know if they really do need to look at it. And I'm
Yes.
sure you get a lot of people where you're able to tell them, you know what, I think your dog's okay. Just try this.
Try these
Call me
things
back if you
and
don't, if you need me. But
call me back if you need me. Or this is a developmental thing. I think some basic manners training will help you. Here's somebody that I recommend. I will do that in a heartbeat. So I want people to get the help that they need for the dog that they have. And not everybody needs a behaviorist to deal with a normal behavior problem. They don't need a behavior professional, a basic manners group class. You know, some of those things will be just fine for them. And I would definitely encourage them to get that help. And I never send anybody away without any advice. Even if I'm referring them to someone else, I'll sit there and say, okay, so in the meantime, this is what I want you to try. Get back to me if that's not working.
cool. I once had a black lab, wonderful, wonderful dog. His name was Mojo. Lived to
Mm-hmm.
be a gazillion years old, had a very long and happy life. He flunked what they called obedience training. He flunked it.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a really good time for me to call you. It's a shame I didn't tell you that.
Well,
Because
it kind of depends on why you flunked.
I might have had something to do with it. Maybe I wasn't following everything as well as I should, but he was pretty stubborn. How can a behavior specialist help in cases where a dog seems particularly stubborn or unresponsive to being trained at home?
So, on the one hand, they can, a lot of times our communication skills are not great, okay? And behavior professionals specialize in problem solving. What about this situation is giving you the impression that this dog is stubborn? Because chances are they're not stubborn, okay? Chances are either they don't understand you, or there are reasons from their perspective that they don't want to do the thing, okay? So for example, it's a hot summer day and you want you're out walking your dog, and you have decided that the routine is whenever we cross the street, you are to sit and wait for me to move you forward, okay? Except that you're asking them to sit on hot concrete. Now, is your dog being stubborn because they're not sitting when you ask them to? Or is there a reason they really aren't or they'll sit and they'll pop right back up? Ooh, that's hot. Okay. They're not really being stubborn. They're just like, you know, that's really not comfortable. It's like asking them to lay down on gravel, right? That's not comfortable. I don't want to do that. And is it really necessary? We're just going to get up and walk again, right? And they know that routine. So are they being stubborn? And then the other thing is you can be confusing them. Okay. Your communication with them is not giving them the information that they need. And it can be something extremely simple, like just the fact that you are asking them to down, but maintaining eye contact and you've taught them focus, and they're like, okay, so when I look at you, that's a good thing. But now you've asked them to go down, but you're still maintaining that eye contact. So they're not even thinking about the next thing, right? So it can be simple things like eye contact, hand signals. Maybe you don't realize that you're including some kind of body posture or body movement with the cue, and you didn't do it that time. And so it's like, okay, well, that doesn't mean the same thing to the dog. And so we as behavior professionals, we do that problem solving. We're really watching to see what techniques aren't working with your dog and how we can modify what you're doing to help the dog understand you better. We help you with timing, with communication, with your observation skills, so that you're not asking your dog to sit when the scary thing is too close. Okay.
Right.
And then also, really being able to help you read your dog and know those signals and saying, okay, so step one of your dog being uncomfortable is this. So when you see this, I want you to do this instead of continuing on your way.
Very good.
And then that increases that trust and that bond, that your dog is like, okay, they're not going to put me in anything situation that I don't like. And building up that trust account think of it as a bank account. It's really important. We have to have our dogs go to the vet, get shots. Some dogs need to go to the groomer. Those are not exactly pleasant things, and we do everything that we can to make them more pleasant. But the fact of the matter is, getting a needle in your backside doesn't feel good, right? And so you want to make sure that you are putting a lot into that trust account, so that when you have to take a withdrawal, okay, it's not completely and totally damaging your entire relationship with your dog.
It's interesting that you mentioned a bank account. That's a good analogy, because I would imagine there's a lot of long-term benefits. It's almost like banking, there's a lot of long-term benefits in getting all of this stuff under control in the early days of
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. And that trust account is not my idea. That's been around for a while.
Well, it worked, so obviously it has
Yes,
power.
yes.
What should people expect from their first session with a behavior specialist? If someone decides, they call you, they talk to you, they find out that they do have an issue that you really can help them with, and hopefully you can help them fairly quickly, what do they need to plan for? Now, you do it virtually, so they don't have to worry about cleaning their house to have you over or anything like that. It's
Right.
all done through the
It's
privacy
done
of their
on.
home, just with you on the computer.
Yes, yes. Generally, everybody is different. Okay, so everyone has their own processes, but generally speaking, there's some type of consultation involved in that first session, whether it's part of your package or it's separate, because you're not going to get enough information to the trainer in a 20 to 30-minute phone call to give them enough that they can actually be ready to, okay, so this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. So things like health history, be ready with those records, any kind of bite history that you have, incidences that have caused you to reach out. You're going to want, I always ask about people's lifestyles. I want to know their pie in the sky with their dog, because we may not be able to get there, but we can be focusing on, hey, you'd really like to take your dog hiking. So we're going to be focusing more on the walking skills and the, desensitizing to different things that they might encounter on a hike. So understanding the lifestyle that people have, what their resources are as far as time, because a person who has a 9 to 5 job and comes home and they live with their dogs and that's it, they might have a lot more time on their hands than someone who has kids, or even has a very active social life, right? So you want to make sure that those kinds of things are taken into consideration, because the best training a plan on the planet is not going to work if it's not tailored to how people kind of live their lives. You got to be able to get that practice in somehow, because 1 hour with me, even if I did come into your home, 1 hour with me is not going to solve your problem. That practice and that repetition is really, really important. So finding ways to implement that training into daily life is important. And then I usually present a preliminary training plan. I want to throw a little caution out there to everybody. A training plan, in my opinion, should be a conversation with your clients. Okay. Clients should feel comfortable asking questions. Why are we doing this? I can't do this. This isn't working for me. All of those things you should be able to talk to your trainer about, and they should be more than willing to address those concerns, shift things around so that it's more manageable for you. It may slow things down, okay, and you need to recognize that. However, I don't feel that my clients should be uncomfortable coming to me and saying, hey, you know what, this just really isn't working for me. Because it's my responsibility then to kind of figure out, okay, what do we need to do to change that so it is starting to work for you? And everybody's life is different. And so you're not going to get a cookie cutter program isn't going to work for some people.
Right. It's nice that you are adaptable and resourceful and flexible and all of that good stuff, because everyone really is different. And I would guess that there are some specialists out there that just kind of, this is the way it's done, da, 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 da. But when you can customize it to someone, it makes all the difference. Just like you need to customize what you do with every dog is different, you know? So,
Right.
yeah, it's good.
Right.
So tell us how people can get in touch with you. Also, as a reminder, everybody, if you have questions or you have suggestions for future shows, interviews with Stephanie, things that we can ask her, please share those. We'd love to take advantage of that. I will put everything in the notes as well, but let us know how people can get in touch with you right now if they want to.
Go to my website, www.caninezen.com, and that's canine spelled out. So it's CANINEZEN.com. And just hit get started on the menu, and it'll take you to the scheduling to set up that free call, and we can talk about your situation. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, which I'm sure you still got the links from last time, so those will be in there. And also LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out and ask questions and follow me on those platforms. And I look forward to talking to anybody that would like to talk.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing is I also do a monthly office hour. And that's usually on the second Monday of the month at noon my time, and I'm Mountain Time. So you can get the link from any of my social media outlets, and just join me there, and you can ask your questions there. No guarantees that you will be the only person in there.
But it's
So
just
if you
something
want,
to offer to the public for free?
Mhm. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I remember you
yes,
mentioning that in the last interview. That's really cool. Did we link
yes.
to that in the show notes for under the last interview?
Maybe I will have to look, and if
Let's
not,
double check that.
I will make
Yeah,
sure that you get that information for
thanks.
this one.
Thank you very much. Well, this has
Okay.
been a pleasure. Just in our talking today, you probably saw me looking down and writing. I was coming up with some ideas for future interviews, so we'll have to talk. It's always a
Wonderful.
blessing. You do such a great job, Stephanie, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here on the Be Happy channel and talk to all of the dog lovers that we have following this channel. Thank you, thank
Well,
you, thank you.
you are very welcome, and thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun.
We'll see you again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.